The first thing I want to do is thank you all for coming. And I don't want that to be a platitude. I really want to thank you because you guys are here fulfilling the promise of our country. The idea that we are a country with a government that is of the people, by the people, and for the people. And we know that we live in a situation now where professional politicians have become excellent at winning elections and they've changed our country. We know that the parties right now are set up where they are machines that can generate votes and win elections. And we know that is not what our country is meant to be. The promise of the United States when the Pilgrims came here was no more kings, no more princes, no more peasants, citizens, all of us, standing together, a country that is made up of people who are invested in their own liberty, who believe that people should be allowed to choose how they run their lives, how they dispose of their income. And fundamentally, we as a people are assembled with the idea that we shouldn't have to agree on every issue. As long as we are able to find a way to compromise and live together, that is how we should run our country. I'm very fortunate to have been working with a great group of candidates this election cycle. I'm going to call you guys out and ask you to stand up and say where you're running at various points in time. And so I'm going to start with Ken Roberts. Ken, where are you running?
The 3rd Hampshire District, which is Amherst, Pelham, and Granby, Massachusetts.
Great. And you don't know whether or not your incumbent is running, right?
I do not know yet.
Interesting thing. So Ken organized his own campaign. He has his own organization. Did a really excellent job. Got on the ballot by himself. He's one of our up-and-coming visions of what we want the Libertarian Party to be. We're hoping to grow the party, and you guys being here is a part of that. The next candidate I'm going to go to is Mike Coombs. Mike, where are you running?
6th Middlesex.
Nice. And your incumbent is running?
Yes.
Who's that?
Chris Walsh.
Democrat?
Yeah.
Is there a Republican running in the race?
No.
So you're the only candidate running. So if you didn't run, he would have been unopposed.
Pretty much.
So Mike's another example of a candidate who is doing what we want to do. We fundamentally believe that more candidates make for better elections. Massachusetts has struggled with that. And we've been let down by a party that, at least in theory, the Republicans were supposed to be the defenders of fiscal conservatism. However, they have tied an anchor around the neck of fiscal conservatism with a social conservative policy from 1950. We are running candidates with an idea that say, we think the right to marry and the right to carry are intricately related. The way you dispose of your own life is something that we believe is a choice that is best left up to you. The next candidate I want to introduce as I go around the room is Ken Van Tassel. Where are you, Ken?
Here.
Ken. Where are you running, Ken?
Running in the 14th Middlesex, which is Chelmsford, Concord, Carlisle, and Acton. Running against Democrat incumbent Corey Atkins.
And your Democrat has connections to the full party machine, right?
I think so. You could say that.
Yeah, so it's an interesting scenario. I was out gathering with Ken, and we met his opponent, and she came out and she stood next to us, and it was actually a pretty cordial thing. I want to say that was what it was all about. Again, there's no Republican running in your district, right?
Exactly. And most often, no opponent even challenges her. So I really want to get a full democratic process, and I'm looking forward to it.
And Ken has an interesting thing, too, in that he part of his district is Chelmsford. So Chelmsford voted Republican all the way up until 1980, when the census, they decided they would split it in 4 parts. And so Ken's part got a quarter of Chelmsford and Concord, which has been solid blue probably since 1776. And it's an interesting thing of how the parties are manipulating the political system for their own gain and working against potentially the will of the people. Thank you very much, Ken. Heather, I apologize. When I was going left or right, I missed you for a second. Heather Mullins is, where are you running, Heather?
I am running for the Plymouth Barnstable District. It's Therese Murray's seat, who's the current president of the state senate. And that's the towns of Falmouth, Bourne, Sandwich, Kingston, Plymouth, and Pembroke. So nice big area.
So Heather has been running a wonderful ground game. I was fortunate enough to go out and gather signatures with her last weekend and the weekend before. Heather is a trooper. She's chose what we want in a candidate, a person who's willing to go out there, make the connections, and then start participating in public events. where were you Thursday night?
I went to the public forum for the Pilgrim plant hosted by the NRC and Entergy, which are the owners of the Pilgrim plant. So it's a very controversial issue. And I was actually the only state Senate candidate that showed up. So.
And that's one of the ways that Libertarians, again, are going out and having an impact on this race and in Massachusetts, is that we are able to establish that we are interested in the community. We're interested in people being able to govern for themselves.
I will mention that Matt Patrick did have somebody speak on his behalf, so I thought that was thoughtful.
It's nice that he sent somebody, but it's interesting because one of the things that differentiates us from the other parties is that our candidates are not running because they want to become civic leaders. We don't think that the people are sheep. You don't need to be led. They're running to be representatives. And that's an important distinction. When we say that we want to represent you, when we say that our candidates want to be representative, they understand the principle that the Libertarians have always believed. All power derives from the people. A lot of times people complain that corporations are running the country. But in reality, the corporations are running the country because of the fact that government is giving them that power. We know that our responsibility as people is to stand up and reclaim what is the birthright of all Americans. The idea that all power generates from the people, that we are our government, of the people, by the people, and for the people. Now, we have another candidate here I'm going to invite to come up. Dan, where are you? Come on up. So Dan, and I confess I can't read your last name from this far back. Do you want to come up and address here? So Dan is running a write-in campaign for U.S. Congress in the 2nd District. Who's your incumbent?
It's Jim McGovern.
Jim McGovern. So a couple words, Dan Dubrule.
Yes, thank you very much for having me, everybody. I appreciate it. I'm drawn to this because we want to represent the people, and that's why I'm here. My background is 25 years of political activism. I was a public safety officer for 20 years. I retired. I was also a union steward for 18 years during that time. A lot of issues from internal were dealt with. I was able to participate in a lot of legislation and brought change from within. The problem is there's a different world that's within the government and the people living outside. So being a candidate's one of those ways to build a bridge to that. There's a lot of laws that keep government and those employees from speaking out about the bad system and changing it, so they need a voice. There's a lot of things that are being unsaid. There's no voices, and being a candidate is one of the only ways you can be that true voice. Special interest groups and PACs have their message, but it's not to represent everybody. So that's my goal, is to represent everybody. I have cards. I'm seeking donations if you can give them. I appreciate the time, and I thank you very much for being here. Looking forward to seeing you all.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. So I have 3 more state representative candidates to tell you about. Bob Underwood is running. I think this is your first time to run for an open seat, right, Bob? Yeah, come on up, Bob, if you want to say a few words. So Bob is also our candidate with the most seniority. This is your 4th time running, and you ran for Senate in 2008. And 2008, you ran for Senate as well?
Yes. Correct, yes. Well, in 2008, I was the candidate for United States Senate. 2010 and 2006, I was also the candidate for the 9th Hampden House District, which I am running for this time. And usually, I'm the only candidate in Western Massachusetts. And for years, I've been asking for neighbors Unfortunately, this year, I have a very good neighbor in Granby. And roughly the district is East Springfield. And it looks like it was designed by Eldridge Gerry. It winds around to Wilbraham and almost to East Longmeadow, and part of it sticks out in the Chicopee. And it is probably a district different than the ones that most of you are running in. For instance, it's very heavily Hispanic. The economy has hit the district hard. I found a lot of boarded up, repossessed houses. I was traveling the streets. And the big issues, on my flyer, for instance, the things that are important to everyone are things like excessive fees for driver's licenses, auto registrations, real estate taxes, sales tax. We also have wasteful spending items that are help driving up those taxes, the war on drugs. I see now the governor's hired more people for DSS and other forms of wasteful spending. So we're addressing concrete issues that I think people are going to respond to. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. So I want to mention two other candidates who weren't able to make it tonight. Dan Morris is running in 7th Essex, which is the town of Salem. He is also running unopposed. We had a sprint at the end, but he did indeed get on the ballot, and he's running against the chief of police. So another situation in which if he hadn't made the ballot, there would have been a Democrat running for an open seat with no opposition. And this Democrat has nobody in his primary either. So they actually would have anointed him. They wouldn't have had the election. Well, they would have had the election. But you get an example of what we're working for and what we're trying to build here. The other candidate I want to mention is Rick Marciano. Rick sent some flyers. I encourage people to take a look at him. Rick is a political veteran. He's run for mayor of Beverly 3 times. He's made it through the primary into the final 2 once. Strong candidate, strong campaigner. Rick also has the advantage of his state rep had a scandal blow up on him. He recently proposed legislation that benefited a company that he worked for, and when they filed the ethics violation, he quit his job rather than go through with it. I think Rick is a seasoned campaigner and really is going to be able to do an impressive job of representing the Libertarian Party out there. The reason that I've introduced all these people to you is that they are going to need your support. We have the website, of course, lpmass.org, which has all the candidates listed on them. We have asked the candidates to focus on gathering signatures excuse me, before starting the campaigns, but websites will be going up. And I want to acknowledge Lawrence Shea and his business Web Wizard out of Springfield. Lawrence has done a wonderful job of setting up WordPress templates for our candidates and is doing it really at cost. Wonderful contribution to us. So thank you very much, Lawrence. I think you're going to help our candidates do much better at the selection cycle. And so that being said, I want to introduce our special guest this evening. Jeff McCormick is an independent candidate who's running for governor. I have to confess that I also have a lacrosse background, and when I learned that, it goes without saying lacrosse people are among the best people on earth. However, that was not what what was the drawing factor. Jeff was the captain of the Syracuse team that won the national championship in 1983. And for those of you who have played a team sport, you understand a critical life lesson in team sport. You understand that it's not about individual efforts, especially on a sport that covers the entire field. It's about everybody working together. And that is our vision for Massachusetts as libertarians. And that is a vision that Jeff shares. If you look at his background, and it's very impressive, and I would encourage everybody to check out the website, jmacforgov.com. .org, sorry. jmacforgov.org. You'll see that Jeff has an impressive history in industry. He's been involved with very identifiable businesses that have grown up and done a wonderful job in Boston, Massachusetts. However, what impressed me most was when he called me in December and we spoke on the phone. And we talked about the issues for the state and the issues of personal liberty. And we have a candidate who's running who understands the Massachusetts government has been so organized and so planned and so streamlined that the people have been irrelevant to it for a long time now. And we've just talked about 6 elections in which only one candidate is running. That is not the way our democracy is meant to work. That is not voices being heard. And so having said that, I'd like to introduce to you a new voice running for governor, Jeff McCormick.
Again, thanks all of you for taking time tonight to come out. One very small housekeeping item. I'm now tasked with collecting 10,000 signatures. So for those people that haven't been able to sign just to get me on the ballot, I would very, very much appreciate if you could do that before you leave. If not for any other reason, it's for choice. I'm running. My quick background is I grew up kind of on the other side of the tracks. Quite frankly, because of some athletic skill, I was in a very, very modest environment, but I could go to college on a scholarship. And because of success on the field and off the field, I won a Scholar Athlete Award and that paid for grad school. Not everyone has that kind of opportunity. And one of the things I want to do is trying to create as much opportunity for everyone. Now, opportunity is different than guaranteeing people outcomes. My whole career, my whole professional career, I have built companies. 2, 3, 4 founders, 1 founder sometimes, trying to build these companies to have a lot of value and create a lot of jobs. And my campaign, if you remember one thing, it's going to be Jeff for Jobs, which may or may not resonate with people in this room. But let me tell you, when you give people the ability to let their own work ethic and their own limits, the sky's the limit. And I'm an example of one. And a lot of people, when they look at me, they say, okay, this guy moved to Boston literally with $800 27 years ago, Boston area. I couldn't afford to live in downtown Boston, frankly. In fact, I slept, truth be told, I slept on a couch for a month just to save up enough money that I could actually get an apartment. But to go from there to just work and just, play hard, work hard, and ultimately, a number of years later, have lived my little version of the American dream. And for that reason, immigrants like my story a lot, middle-class people like my story a lot, because I'm one of them. I'm a product of a multi-generation, as you might imagine, Irish family that, every generation did a little bit better. And people, they're hungry to get back at it. But getting back to government, the government has to create as much opportunity for everyone, and in some cases, just get out of the way. I've been trying to bring a huge project to Massachusetts. I mean, $1 billion price tag, all the money's coming from Wall Street. I don't want the state's money. I just want them to work with each other within the State House and get out of the way. And one of the things I want to do as governor is have literally ambassadors to business saying, what do you need? Who do you have to get in the same room? And as governor say, why isn't this going forward? It's not that hard. There are some things that talk about low-hanging fruit. Places to save $5 million there, $12 million there, $20 million there. They're out there. But someone has to have the will to say, we need to drive that. And this is not a conversation just about, waste, fraud, and inefficiencies. There's more to it than that. It's changing a culture. It's have people go to work every day saying, how do I serve people in the Commonwealth? How do I, make your life easier? Which doesn't mean you're stripping off every regulation, by the way. Regulations are there for a very good reason, to keep businesses from basically eating their young and cannibalizing everything. And I'm a business guy, and I'll tell you that. Regulations, they can be simplified, absolutely. No question in my mind. They're a structure. They're a defense mechanism, right? But we have to do better. And I see it. I talk to small businesses all over the state, and Now, I'm a guy, I look at about 1,000 companies a year with our team. And I've been doing it for over 25 years. That's a lot of companies, not just in Massachusetts, by the way. But I hear the problems all the time. I hear about people trying to get things done and they just can't, and they get frustrated. I know people who've moved out of state. I know people who won't expand in the state. I know people who won't come to the state, but they want to. And why do they want to? It's because the people in this room, it's about talent. They know this Commonwealth is just chock-filled with talent and brain power and hardworking people. And they want access to it. Let's give them access to it. Let's improve the schools so they have more and more talent. And again, there's some low-hanging fruit. We're doing it in 41 states with one of our companies, happens to be a math education software company, and we're growing and we're thriving. We have entire states that do it, but in Massachusetts we say, we're doing fine. We're #1 in the country in education. Yeah, if we're so bloody smart, why are 37% of our third graders not proficient in reading? I think that is criminal to say we're done. Because you know what? On average, maybe we are kind of #1. #1 relative to what? I mean, everyone in this room knows we're competing internationally, for Pete's sakes. Our best kids don't even make the bottom rung of the ladder compared to kids from Singapore. What is wrong with that? We are better than that. I really, really believe that. And it can be done, but as everyone in the room here knows, I mean, you guys know this more than anyone, it takes political will to do it. The same old just doesn't work, and there are cliffs. There's education cliffs, fiscal cliffs, like you wouldn't believe, healthcare cliffs. I mean, healthcare, when I moved here, was 20% of the state's budget. It's almost 41% of the state's budget now. What are we going to wait until it's 53 to get our act together? And we know we can do it. And there are examples of private companies doing it. So in a ruthlessly competitive environment, they're getting it done. Why the heck can't we get it done, with the state's purchasing power, for Pete's sakes? So it's that kind of mindset. And when you hear debates, and I've been in forums, and this is actually kind of fun for me, because all I have to do is speak of my experience and tell the truth. It's really cool. And for people here who have already said, you want to give people a choice, you want to give someone a voice. I love that. That's what it's about. And when people hear me say that kind of thing, and they think, wait a minute, this guy, he's not tied to special interests. He's from the other side of the tracks. He's self-made. He builds companies. He's created thousands of jobs. Gosh, it sounds like someone I want running the Commonwealth. I don't owe anyone anything, except for my fantastic parents and my public school teachers and my coaches who really cared about me, and obviously the people of the Commonwealth. And that's, if you're going to be beholden to anyone, that's the group you want to be beholden to. So with that, again, my name is Jeff McCormick. We do have a pretty good website. I'd encourage you to visit it. Anything you could do to help us gather the signatures, because as you know, that's a pretty extensive process. And of course, there's so much gamesmanship with the parties, with what they set up. Every hurdle I have is going to be higher. But I'm willing to take that on, because I've done it my whole life. It hasn't been easy. I've been knocked on my butt so many times, but when you play lacrosse, you know what? You get back up again. So with that said, I laud your efforts. I wish everyone well in these upcoming races. Good luck with everything, and there is a voice waiting to be heard. Just tap into it, okay? Thank you.
So with that being said, we recognize third-party candidates and the issues that they bring. There's an opportunity for everybody right now. We've just gone through a big signature drive. Something that Jeff said appealed to you, we get back out on the street, maybe gather one more sheet for him. jeffmacforgov.org. They'll be able to, jmacforgov.org. That I should write down.
Just Google Jeff McCormick for governor.
And actually, that's an interesting thing, because I want to talk about that part of the professionalism of the campaign. Because when Jeff started running, I would look for his name and we would see professional things. But now when you Google Jeff McCormick, the #1 result that comes back is a gubernatorial campaign. It's a campaign that is technologically sophisticated, They understand social media. They're doing an excellent job to run a very serious campaign. So let me say that that is another thing that has drawn me to the campaign. With that, I want to thank you all for coming. You know, it's wonderful to have an assembly like this. You know, our party, we don't get together that often, the state convention. This time we've done a little bit more, and we want to build on this. This is not the beginning for us. We're all going out and we're going to assemble libertarian ideals, spread the rumors, spread the news, get people talking. When we do that, our ideas are selling. Thank you all very much for coming.